Got to be quiet. Hello and welcome to another segment of Money Talk. I have the most amazing guest today talking about money. How do we keep more of that money? Or all of a sudden, when we get really surprised, we get into this wow, we just found money, or we find ourselves in a moment of how do I keep more of this money? Well, we're going to find out today. So join me today when my special guest, Joy Francis, joins us. Be right back. Because if you market something really, really well, you never have to sell. Welcome. And today I told you we've got this really incredibly special guest, and she is a specialist on how to keep more of that money and what to do with that money. With a background as a CPA, that's what you would expect, but she really speaks to women and women that have a very special need. So, welcome to the stage, Joy Francis. Hi, Joy.
Hello, Linda. Thank you. And I have to correct you. I am a CFO, but not a CPA. A lot of C's
Okay.
there, but not a CPA. I
Well,
did enough cutting, pasting, and assembling in my younger years.
well, I think that makes us like you even more, doesn't it?
I hope so, because I'm not a constant pain in the anatomy.
Well, there you go. Joy, talk to us about some of the things that um, you really speak to with women.
One of the biggest concerns most women have is money. Yeah, numbers and money. Numbers frighten so many people, and
Yeah,
I
but
have
money scares us entirely because, well, what if we run out of it? For us, I think women, more than anything, men find money very, very important, but for different reasons, right? They're taking care of
usually,
things.
yes.
They have significance associated with that money. But with women, we want to hang on to it. We're afraid to lose it. We want security. Talk to us about this.
Security is one of the most critical things, and what I work with people, I teach you what my mother taught me. My mother, when I was growing up, we were not rich. We were had a very limited income, and she had what she called the envelope system. And I teach everybody to use her envelope system. It works today. We used to take the paycheck, go to the bank, and the bank would give us our money in these paper envelopes. And she would put the bills in. She'd grab a handful of them, and she had one for food, one for gas, one for utilities, one for rent, mortgage, and on and on and on, insurance and everything else. And
Come on now, Joy. Seriously? We put these things in envelopes?
well, you may not use an envelope today. You may use a file, but it's the same thing. And what we do, what would happen when we were growing up, I always knew that the money envelope was running really low if all we had to cook with was hamburger. If every meal was some kind of a hamburger dish, we didn't have much money in the food envelope. And we need to do that with our business so that when we start running low on the money in that particular envelope, which could be an envelope, a file, it could be a bank account, it could be whatever you want.
Oh no, that dreaded word, the P&L.
Oh, forget the P&L. I want to I want to work on just the P part of the P&L, the profit. I
Well,
want
yeah, nobody wants to deal with loss, okay, which was
exactly,
what P&L stands for, profit and loss. But
exactly.
Joy, many of our listeners are small business owners, entrepreneurs.
Yes,
And so some of us will budget, some of us don't budget. Some of us have this notion of, yeah, the envelope, gee, because if my envelope's running low. For me, I keep a cash envelope, but I keep that cash envelope with hundreds in it, and when it gets down to like 10 of them, I know it's time to replenish. I don't go into a state of panic. But for many business owners, for many women, we see that this needles away and that eats away at this. And all of a sudden, things that we hadn't planned for suddenly ate through that money envelope. So, talk to me about that.
that's the critical one. That's the problem for most people. And I was just talking with someone earlier today about shiny object syndrome. And most of us business owners, me being the star, I am the star. If you open up shiny object in the dictionary, you look there, you're going to see my picture because that's always been my problem. I
I
want to
don't
get
know. That might be a crowded space. We're all there. We're all shining stars.
yeah, a lot of people, there's a lot of us there on that space, but that becomes a problem. And for me, what I had to do, I had to say, okay, how much is this? And what return am I going to get? And how quickly? Am I wanting it just because I want to fix something? Or do I really need this to make something that I'm doing work? And that's the answer to most of the shiny objects. And shiny objects are usually the biggest problem for most small businesses, without fail.
Well, and we think about that in terms of running our personal life, but in our business that can have a bigger impact.
Has a
I
huge
was just
impact.
listening to Suzanne Evans, one of the leaders of one of the mastermind groups that I belong to,
I know
and
Suzanne.
good. So she was talking to this elite group, and the questions that were coming up were, should I do this? Okay, so should I sponsor this? Should I do that? And she had a real simple solution to it, which essentially was, when we go to sponsor something, when we go to be a part of something, is that the isolated cost with it, right? Or are there ancillary costs? How much is it going to cost to get there? How much is it going to cost to stay there? And you got to eat when you get there. So it isn't just a sponsorship for 1,200. It's going to be the trip, the flights to and from, the lost amount of time that you've got in your business. And in addition to that, all the ancillary things that you will spend when you get there. So when we're thinking about time budgets and money budgets, what kind of sage advice can you give us?
The biggest thing you want to look at on that, you're looking to sponsor something. You're going to sponsor how many people are going to be there. Is it your audience? Is this audience going to buy what you are offering? If they're not, it's totally a waste. You have to have a good, reasonable idea and understanding of what they're going to give you so you can make money. You need that return on your investment every
So,
time.
what you're talking about, you just mentioned return on investment, which is your ROI.
Yes.
So, one is, what is the overall cost to get there? What is the cost of losing your time or other things that you could be doing if you weren't doing that, doing it in person? It's sort of a no brainer when you're talking about virtual, but when you're going back to live, the cost associated with it, is it my audience? Will I be able to recoup my money? How long would you take to recoup that money? Let's just say, for instance, let's say your overall cost was 5,000. If I got one client paying 5,000, it was a break even. It wasn't a worth it, it's a break even. But how many of those people did I reach? So talk to me a little bit more about expansion of that same concept of, we don't know where that money is going to come next.
And that's the key. We've got to know our audience. Who is our audience? My audience is really a small audience because I'm looking to be helping the widow who is taking over a family business. There are actually a lot more out there than many people think, but there's not a huge amount. And they're not going to be in any audience that I speak to because they're going to be scattered here and there. You need to know who is your client and remember that there's only 3% of your any of the people that are watching you that are ready to buy. They may not be buying today, but will they buy a year from now or 2 years from now? This podcast is gonna last forever. Therefore, it gives you a lot of benefit. You will get a lot of potential return coming back because somebody's gonna watch this year, next year, 10 years from now, and they can get whatever we might offer. But you've got to know what is that? What is the potential? And what is the probability? The probability is the key to everything because if
Isn't
you're
it
not
really?
getting an audience, they're not going to buy.
The probability means everything. Let's
Exactly.
shift gears just a little bit and let's talk about some of the issues that arise from inheriting a business. Now, you could be the daughter of, you could be the wife of, you could be the sister of, you could, we're talking about a family business. Talk to me about some of the issues that come up for the family suddenly finds themselves in the middle of running a business. Did they have business experience? Did they have were they watching as the money came in and they sent the money out, or were they an active part of the business? Because that can impact this story.
It's going to impact everything. And the first thing that I need to be aware of when I start working with somebody that has a loss in the family regarding their business is the grief. Everybody, I don't care if you hated your spouse, you are going to grieve when you are going through that. And grieving is going to pull you away. And that's when you need the most support. You need somebody there to say, I believe in you. You can do it. And you need a grief specialist that's going to be able to counsel you and make sure that everything you're doing is logical and going to help you. And then
Well,
you
you're
also
talking about emotions now, Joy, and
that and
numbers don't lie,
emotion
but emotions do.
emotions, but emotions affect, when we buy based on emotion.
Of
We
course.
buy an emotion and we support it with logic. And therefore, because you're going through the grief has got to be one of the first things that I am aware of and that I'm looking at because if your mind is in grief mode, and you're crying and you're having too much trouble, you're not going to be able to do. That's when you need the support, need to be able to bring someone in that is going to be able to help guide you and give you that financial information that you need and give you the support, the grieving support, and making sure that you're not wasting all the money and paying too many taxes and all these other things, because that's critical for businesses.
Joy, how many businesses are set up to have a loss of a principal?
Not enough. Not enough.
When you say not enough, I mean
The number
statistically.
that I just saw that are not set up was 74%. I was just reading something in family Family Business Magazine, and they were putting out a report that 74% of all family businesses, at least in their market, their group, are not prepared when they lose someone. And
Well,
so they
nobody's
end up
really
going to the
prepared to
attorney.
lose somebody. But if you were thinking about being prepared, what would be the top 5 things that you would say, you got to know this?
The first one, you've got to have the insurance. You've got to have that insurance that is going to make sure that you're set up like the Rockefeller family. So that when you have a death in the family, you don't end up paying all of the money that you've got out into the government in taxes. And there are
So
legal
why
ways
would
to
that
do that.
happen? Give me a for instance, Joy. Why would something like that happen?
The problem is the way the IRS has got our tax law here in the United States is that when someone dies, there is a major death tax, and you have got to pay it. There is no if, ands, or buts. You can get around it. It is called a spendthrift trust, and it's a legal thing. It is in the IRS tax code, and it is how the Rockefeller family and all of your wealthy families have kept their money for all these years. That's why your Rockefellers, your Morgan, Chase Morgan, and all of those people have got the money that they have. That's why they are the wealthiest families in the United States. And
Okay,
I
we're not
I would
looking
bet
to
that
get
you'll also.
tax advice, Joy, but in the spendthrift trust, how much would you have to be? What would your net worth have to be in order to make sense to have that make sense?
A spendthrift trust, you want to be making 100, you want your net income, your taxable income to be $100,000 or more a year or more. If your
That's it.
taxable That's it. That's why every one of us, most of us, once you get to that level, you get to that six-figure level that you're making and keeping that kind of profit, most of us need to have a spendthrift trust.
So what's the difference between, um, let's just say, a sole proprietor?
Yep,
They could be set up as an LLC or they could be set up as an S corp. They're making this kind of money, but they've already got they've got everything that they own in a trust.
that's
So
me.
this would be say it's a living trust.
A
What is the difference between a living
spendthrift
trust and
trust is another type of a living trust,
okay? What's the
and
benefit?
the benefit is not paying all the taxes, keeping the money. The business, the trust ends up owning everything, and they keep the money. It's an I was shocked because I did not know this until a friend brought the information to me, and it was, "Oh my goodness, I've got to be able to have this to be able to bring it to the attorneys that are working with the family, to the family so that they know that they can benefit from this." But if they're not earning that $100,000 a year, it's not going to help them. It's not worth it. It's going to cost a bit of money, but it saves you way more and on an ongoing basis. So that's something that I don't do. It's something that a friend of
Sure.
mine is doing. And but I want people to be aware of that because it's so important. And
Okay.
if you want
That's one
information, I'll
thing.
give you information to the gal that handles it, and she does a Monday night webinar every Monday night and answers all kinds of questions for people. So
That's
it's
awesome. Thank you, Joy.
yes,
Um, but the now that's keeping money if you're making that $100,000. Let's say, for instance, you've got a royalty based revenue stream.
okay,
So it's nice passive income. It's coming in through the corporation.
yep.
You don't really have to do anything. It's sort of a non-brainer. You just sit there and it's a coupon clipper, as we call them in the business, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yeah, you just sit and let it keep coming in. You let the money pile as you sleep, and you
So
just keep earning and earning and earning.
now, other revenue streams that are coming in could be from selling product, and so product and services. Um,
Exactly.
in the instance of the widow who has just inherited, or the daughter has just inherited, or the son has just inherited the business, how much goodwill is associated with that principle? And how do you see that moving forward with Junior or the spouse now saying, I'm going to take his place, trust me?
That's potentially the problem, because somebody taking the place, if they don't have that same experience, that same knowledge, what are they going to do? They're going to be stuck, and they're going to end up making bad decisions. And if so many people will look at a financial statement and say, "Oh, I've got money there, I can spend it." And they start spending money, and that's the other part. That's the other side of the shiny object, is just, "Oh, I see that I've got money and I spend it." I want
Oh,
to.
Joy, I grew up that way. I can't be out of money. I still have checks.
Exactly, exactly, and that's a problem. What I get people doing, I am certified as a private first professional, and that's why I start people looking at their cash and then starting to work with that profit. How much profit do we want? And let's plan for that, and let's make sure that we get that. Oh, go away.
It's interesting because we suddenly think, the money that was coming in, we knew it was coming in. We don't know what did he have a business loan, and that's where the cash flow was coming from. You know, how many surprises do you find when the business is inherited?
There are always surprises. It doesn't make any difference what's happened, what is going on. There's always surprises. And most people will they look at the financial statements, and all they look at is the P&L. This is how much money came in. This is what we sold. This is what it costs. And this is what our profit was. And they think of the profit as cash, but it's profit and cash are two different things. There is a
Sure.
difference in timing, because you're going to sell something, and then a while later, the customer is going to pay for it. And so you have to be aware of what is coming in, what is going out, when is it going to come in, and when is it going to go out. And
When's it
that
due?
that's why I want people looking at, and that's why with the Profit First basically is my mother's envelope system. We set it up so that you can run your business doing exactly what is going on and what is happening, and knowing how much you've got to work with, and not spending more than what you have. When that food envelope starts getting low, you got to start buying hamburgers so you can feed yourself. Okay, what are we going to do in the business? We are running low here, and how are we going to get the money? Are we going to use a credit card? Are we going to use a loan? Are we going to use a cash advance? What is it? Where's that money going to come from? And how are we going to pay for it? And what is the return going to be? The return becomes the most important thing that you can focus on. How much
Sure.
is that profit going to be? What am I going to make out of this? If you don't make profit, you might as well not be there. You're just wasting your time.
So when you start working with women, are they in a place where they've been running the business now for a while, or
The
they
ones that
just suddenly
there
found themselves in this position?
there are many women that have been in the business and doing something and been helping to run the business. But the ones that I'm assisting are the ones that are just coming back in. They just want to keep that legacy going. That legacy is really important because they love their spouse. They love what they were doing. They're very proud of this business that he has created and what it is doing for the world, how it is helping the world doing whatever it is. And so I am there to help them, to guide them, because they look at the financial statements. And most people, when they look at financial statements, they look at the P&L. They look at the profit and the loss. What do I have left? You mentioned the other piece of it, which comes from the balance sheet, which is over here. The balance sheet is what you own and what you owe. It balances. What you own is always equal to what you owe, and what you owe is broken into what you owe to outsiders. That's your payables, your loans, your whatever. And then what you owe the owners. That's the equity. And that's where You, as a business owner, want to see that equity growing and the loans coming down. But you don't want to necessarily eliminate the loans because that's how you can expand. Using other people's money is one of the most important things that we do. We teach that because that's how the banks have gotten to be as big as they are. We put our money into a bank and then they loan it to somebody else. And they take part of it and they loan it to business A and business B and business C, and those people pay that back with interest, and that's how the bank earns its money. They pay you a tiny little bit, and they charge a big bit of interest to the people that they loan it to. And
So
they loan,
how would you advise uh, a newly inherited heiress
yes,
of to on the legacy system, and let's just say that the legacy system was a product, and we know that the product, all products have an end of life. Unless
yeah,
you're building some, R&D into it, they have an end of life. So
exactly.
do you help the business owner prepare the business to sell it, or are they really just interested in the legacy of it? Or do you help them understand what their options are?
That's the first thing we do is what are the options and what do you want as the owner? Do you want it to be something that you're going to pass on to someone else, be it your children, another family member, or whatever, an outsider? Is it something you want to take this business and make it a public corporation and have it so that it just runs forever, it becomes the next GM or the next Exxon Mobil, and it's just there forever and runs and runs and runs? You've got R&D going on, you've got things being created on an ongoing basis. Or is it something that you want to create and get to the point that you're just going to let it phase out, or and sell off the assets of the business? Or do you want to get it to the point that you want to build it and build it and build it and then have somebody else come in and buy it from you? You can choose to do either one.
That gives you a lot of options for sure. Um,
Always.
Typically, when you think of legacy, what kind of great things are people doing at the end of their careers or at the end of their business life? And how that impacts, and why a widow or a daughter or an heir to the throne
Or the whole
would
family.
want to keep it going?
It's my favorite financial answer. You ask me most any financial question. The answer is it depends. It depends on all the ifs, all the what about this? What what do you want? What's happening? What does the economy look like? What does the industry look like? If the industry is expanding, is it something that's going to be like the dot com, and it will expand and expand and expand, and then and everything dies, and now we're getting into AI, and everything is changing again, and so we've got another piece that's going to be growing and growing and growing. What are you doing? How are you doing it? What do you want? The want is the most important thing. And somebody like me, I'm looking to create this to enable, to help the women create businesses. And I was shocked when I did the research how many businesses have been inherited by a woman, and the woman just recreated the business and expanded it. My favorite one, only because I'm a chocoholic, was Hershey's. Hershey, Milton Hershey died, I believe it was 1910, and the wife took over, and she has turned that business into the Hershey's Candy Company that we all
Right,
know today.
the
And it
Hershey
is
Empire.
massive. It is huge. And she did that. And it's, okay, do I want to do that? Or do I want to continue and let somebody else do it? What is it that you want? That's
That's
the
so
most
funny that you
important
should
thing.
say that, Joy, because We frequently think about, supporting our spouse or supporting them in their endeavors as they grow their business. And all of
Right?
a sudden, they are no longer there to keep her or keep that person that inherited the business from going, wow, I get to do this. See, he never listened to me. So, how much of that do you hear from the women that you serve?
Too often. And, yeah, one of the gifts that I give away a lot of times to a lot of people is I wrote a how I got through a lot of my imposter syndrome, because I grew up being told, "You don't know anything, you're stupid, you" on and on and on. So I kept going and getting more degrees and more degrees and more degrees
Don't
until
we all do that? We
yeah,
all think,
I
we're
until
not
until
enough.
the dean of the engineering college wanted me to get a PhD in accounting, and I said, I think that's okay. I don't need the PhD in accounting. Yeah, I'm
Exactly.
teaching accounting, that's fine. I don't need to get a PhD." And I then realized I was smart enough, and it was at that point that I was then able to write that piece on the 3 steps that I take to get through that imposter syndrome, because I don't think there's anybody out there, unless they're lying, is gonna tell you that at some point in time, they don't have some question of, "Can I really do this?"
So,
And
Joy, how would they find that? How would they get that?
I can make it available. I can get it for you momentarily. I didn't bring it up, but I will get it for you
That's
momentarily.
okay. I mean, do you have a link for it, or should they reach out to you?
You can always go to, this one, my favorite, my personal website. You go to joyf360.com, and you can connect with all my social media. You can see the things that I'm doing. You can see the book that I'm writing that I've got coming out. And you can also just send me an email and ask me for, yeah, I've got a number of different things available there, that I've got freebies that you can collect and get. But I've also got a lot of other things, and all you have to do is ask. You send me an email, tell me that you want this or would like some information about that, and I will guarantee that you're going to get it.
Awesome. So, in our few remaining seconds that we've got here, Joy,
Yes.
what do you want women to know about money, and uh, how your message is so compelling that they should reach out to you?
Money is good. Too many people have heard the quote that they think they're quoting it from the Bible, that money is evil, but it's not money that's evil. The love of money is evil. Greed is evil. Money is important. Money is how you make things happen. And there isn't a decision that is made in a business that doesn't center around money. And that's why you need to be able to connect with me, because we didn't talk about it, but I'm technically blind. I see very, very little, but I see a lot when I look at a financial statement. That's my specialty. That is where my eyes focus. I look at that statement and I will spot something. If there's a question or a problem, I'm going to be able to spot it for you. And that's one of the gifts that I'm giving to every one of my clients, because I can just look at the numbers and say, let's look at this, let's check this, let's figure out this, and we'll find a problem or we'll find a solution right there that you can expand on and take advantage of.
That's awesome. Joy, thank you so much for joining me today. I really want to thank you, and our guests are going to reach out to you. If you'd like to be a guest on the show here, I'm going to be putting up a link in just a second, but I want to thank you for joining us today on another episode of Money Talk. Do you like to talk about money? If you do and you'd like to be a guest, contact me at lindakay360.com.